The big story is, of course, Argentina and what's happened. Why are they so bad?
Okay, so it doesn't happen overnight. It's not just one thing. It's a multitude of things that have gone wrong with Argentina. And then, to some degree, Diego Maradona addresses one of the issues now. Full disclosure, Diego Maradona has had issues with the federation, even when he was a player, even when they were winning things. And so the situation with Argentina, the federation is all over the place.
Right.
And there are many interests that pull in all sorts of different directions. But when it comes to the players on the field, there should be enough talent to go around for Argentina to be far better than what they've shown to be. But what we saw from them in the World Cup was so embarrassing in so many ways. The lack of organization, so the lack of discipline, the lack of structure, the lack of a coaching position that was actually respected and appreciated as the manager of the team. And then there is a dependency, a clear dependency on Lionel Messi. It's Lionel Messi and everybody else. Now, that reflects on Lionel Messi to some degree, but the fact is that whatever tournaments and results that we saw in that list just now, however far they got, was because they were hanging by a thread, and that single thread was Lionel Messi. There are guys that when they play with Argentina and next to Lionel Messi, they become half of the players that they are with their clubs. You cannot address that if you're a federation. You cannot address that if you're a manager, because you are selecting these players based on what you see with their clubs, and then they show with the national team, and they simply cannot hold the pressure. And the pressure is only going to get higher and tighter because clearly, it's not getting any better.
So we see how the bookies have your chances in Copa America, which of course...
Oh, man.
Hey, did they watch the game? What?
Venezuela 25-1. Brazil are big favourites, 5-4, of course, hosting the tournament. But Brazil are struggling as well of late. That game against Panama, finishing 1-1, very flat. Is this just the normal Brazil where they lift themselves for a big tournament? Or is it more concerned? Because you look at the players who started this game, they don't exactly instill too much fear, do they?
No, and some people will say, well, Neymar was missing. Well, the last time that we saw dependency on Neymar in a big tournament, that was the 2014 World Cup. And when he wasn't around, it ended up in a 7-1 in the semifinals against Germany. So if you want to wait for Neymar, well, good luck. I don't think it becomes all that much better for Brazil. If you look at the highlights of this game, the best players, Casemiro.
Yes.
If you're waiting for Casemiro to be the guy who's scoring goals for you, then that's a problem. It also speaks to the fact that there is a limited amount of talent as compared to other teams in the attacking half for Brazil. You look at the names from the past, those names are not walking into that locker room, and you're depending on Richarlison to score a big goal for you. I don't think so.
Gab?
Yeah, I'm not as down on Brazil as some people are. I think this was a friendly. I think it's a different story. Leave Neymar to one side right now, but I think with Gabriel Jesus in there, with Coutinho regaining his mojo, which at some point presumably he will, it's a different story. Again, still for me, Brazil I thought played some of the best football that we saw at the World Cup. That wasn't a million years ago. That was 8 or 9 months ago. So I think we have to make allowances for that and make allowances for the fact that this is a friendly. I mean, if you want to compare Brazil and Argentina, it's night and day, even with this, on paper, disappointing result.
Look, the truth is, when TJ took over this Brazil team, they were struggling, and he made a team out of this that qualified for the World Cup quite convincingly and quite easily. And he stuck by those players. But what he brought back to Brazil, we thought at the time, was what we've come to know of Brazil over the years. Attack-minded, full of flair, full of fun. You look at that front three, and Gab uses the word mojo. Nobody has their mojo in that front three. Maybe Firmino, nobody else really. You're asking a lot of people to get a lot of mojo back for us to see a Brazil that Brazilians can boast about again.
And you take a look at that, they haven't won, of course, any sort of silverware since 2007, the Copa America then.
When we're talking about Brazil, they're being evaluated against their own standard.
Yeah.
And so when we speak of Brazil not being what they should be, it's because we have seen Brazil at their best, and this is nowhere near that. And I know that the game has changed. And I know that individual players are not what they used to be. And I know there's a lot of demanded from players in terms of a defensive role that everybody has to attack and everybody has to defend. I don't believe in any of that when it comes to Brazil. Brazil has had enough individual players over the years that when you give them the ball, everybody else on the field, attacking and defending, pays attention. Right now, Brazil doesn't have enough of those players.
But to that point, Brazil's big individual is Neymar.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, teachers allowed him to just be too much his own kind of distraction, which we saw during the World Cup with the rolling. And so he needs to be more discipline-oriented towards Neymar to get the best out of him and the best out of this Brazil.
Copa America starts June 14th. Here are your groups. Venezuela should top theirs, of course, with and Brazil.